Friends, good morning. And I welcome you to this sacred space here at Fountain Street Church. My name is Nathan Danis, and I'm the minister here at Fountain Street. On behalf of our entire community, we are with you in solidarity, and we are grieving in this moment for saying goodbye and for saying thank you as we commend and celebrate the life of Gretchen Zuiderveen. In this space that she knew so well and so dearly, we celebrate her countless gifts, all that she gave to this community, all those that she loved and all those who loved her. And here today, as a community of support and encouragement, we are free to pour out any grief, face any emptiness, and know that the same spirit of life that sustains us from moment to moment is present here and is filled with care that will sustain us in a peace that knows no end. This morning we will hear stories and fond remembrances. After the service, there'll be a time in the social hall for all to gather and continue to celebrate. Each of those stories, each of those memories is a blessing and a gift. And so I want to encourage all of you to continue telling those stories and sharing them with one another and with the family members in the days to come. Each of those stories is a heavenly gem that, when arranged together, may allow an image to appear, a mosaic of a life that was lived in service, in love, in joy, and in blessing. And so then, at this time, let's open our hearts and remember these promises. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Following this musical reflection by Todd, we will hear some words of remembrance from Josh. Let's open our hearts and receive this moment together.
Good morning. When I was a boy here, the minister had a great shock of white hair and a turtleneck, and he'd say, "This is a day the Lord hath made, let us rejoice and be glad in it." I always wanted to say that here. I have a couple stories and some words I'd like to share about my mom. But before I do, I'm going to steal the words of another. My dad asked if I would read the poem "The Lanyard" by Billy Collins. I said I would do it. No guarantees I can make it. The Lanyard. The other day, as I was ricocheting slowly off the pale blue walls of this room, bouncing from typewriter to piano, from bookshelf to an envelope lying on the floor, I found myself in the L section of the dictionary, where my eyes fell upon the word lanyard. No cookie nibbled by a French novelist could send one more suddenly into the past, a past where I sat at a workbench at a camp by a deep Adirondack lake, learning how to braid thin plastic strips into a lanyard, a gift for my mother. I had never seen anyone use a lanyard, or wear one, if that's what you did with them. But that did not keep me from crossing strand over strand again and again until I had made a boxy red and white lanyard for my mother. She gave me life and milk from her breasts, and I gave her a lanyard. She nursed me in many a sick room, lifted 2 teaspoons of medicine to my lips, set cold face cloths on my forehead, and then led me out into the airy light and taught me to walk and swim. And I, in turn, presented her with a lanyard. "Here are thousands of meals," she said, "and here is clothing and a good education." And here, I replied, is your lanyard, which I made with a little help from a camp counselor. Here's a breathing body and a beating heart, strong legs, bones, and teeth, and 2 clear eyes to read the world, she said. And here, I said, is the lanyard I made at camp. And here I wish to say to her now is a smaller gift. Not the archaic truth that you can never repay your mother, but the rueful admission that when she took this 2-tone lanyard from my hand, I was as sure as a boy could be that this useless, worthless thing I wove out of boredom would be enough to make us even. It's really comforting to be here with all of you today. My sister Jessica and I marveled at just how many friends and family kept coming over and bringing food and care and prayer and camaraderie to my parents during my mom's struggle with ALS. Just being honest here, it even got to, it was a little difficult to get an appointment on the social calendar. And this was really heartwarming to us, so thank you very much. And I told Mom it reminded me of something Emily Dickinson once wrote. My friends are my estate. So all of you here today are a lovely part of my mother's estate in our eyes. Thanks for coming to honor her. Now, when Jessica and I were little kids, Mom made us homemade yogurt in a yellow and clear Tupperware type thing. She wanted us to have healthy food for our growing bodies. So when my sister prepares and packs a lunch of healthy fruit and foods for her boys' tennis matches, or when I prepare and freeze wild game meat for my family, we are just natural extensions of my mom and that homemade yogurt contraption. And proud to be so. After we moved to Alger Heights, Gretchen found her professional home teaching 5th grade at Alger Elementary, not far from our home. Recently, very nonchalantly, she showed me a Michigan education magazine And it was open to an article which featured a photograph of a lovely young black woman with glasses sitting in her own classroom. In the text of the article, the new teacher said she was inspired to be a teacher because of her 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Zuiderveen. This makes me very proud. Now, when she and my dad were both working, there wasn't always somebody there to prepare a meal. And Gretchen's solution was to empower Jessica and I as young kitchen engineers. This was not Sanchez tapas fare, mind you, but it was serviceable. And a couple times a month, we were in charge with providing meals for the family. And this was a terrific life skill to learn for teenagers, even if it resulted in a grease fire at 2147 Union. Those grease fires just take a little more water to put out than you might think. Gretchen taught us how to find agates on Lake Superior shores, and she took us to important historical places in America on our family vacations. We learned values like do unto others, content of the character, you shouldn't say should, and perhaps my favorite, appreciate the donut, don't complain there's a hole in the middle. My sons may have heard that one. In retired life, Gretchen enjoyed gardening very much and conservation, and sometimes we connected nicely because my career is in the outdoor industry. Recently, I was at a conservation dinner and a man walked up to me and said, "Josh, I have plants at my home and at my cottage up north that are from your mom." And on the way home from the dinner, I called her and she was just delighted. There are dozens of plants at our home in Rockford, at our rental property, and at our cabin in Baldwin that are all from my mom. And this is probably true for many people here today. So when I walk to let our chickens out in the morning, or when I go to get the mail in the afternoon, both of which I do hundreds of times a year, I'll walk past little red columbine flowers, wild ginger, and forget-me-nots. And I'll think of you, Mom. As I've taken to doing in the last few weeks, I'll talk to you. And I'll listen for your voice, and I won't forget. Thank you.
It is impossible to tell the story of a life as rich and captivating as Gretchen's, but each of our memories and each of these stories reveals a facet of that experience. And so I invite you to open your hearts, open your minds, and receive these remembrances from Gretchen's sisters, from Jessica and from Susan.
I knew today would feel overwhelming, but it's already starting to feel really good. Thank you all for being here. I'm Jessica, for those of you who I haven't met. I'm going to share some words, and then I'm going to read a poem afterward. I'd like to share a short story about my mom, as a way to pay tribute to her today, and possibly as a way to shed light on one of her dimensions. My mom was a grandma, Yaya, as she was called, to 4 boys, now ages 11 to 20. And guys, I don't know if you'll remember this story, but I'm not making it up. Somewhere in the last decade, when all 4 boys were of school age, she told us a story that I'm going to tell you now today. First off, let's establish that my mom wasn't the most fun-loving or carefree Yaya or mom. She was more instructive and loving. Her overall persona was serious and informed, with a heavy side of individual care and attention, with chocolate milk and Queen Wilhelmina peppermints and Frederick Meyer garden visits and read alouds. So when she told this story about herself as a kindergartner, it kind of took me by surprise. My mom described her first day of kindergarten when all of the children were sitting on the rug in a circle with wide open eyes at their teacher. Gretchen went to the public school that year in Oak Park, Illinois. It wasn't until the next year, when her older neighbors could walk her to 1st grade, that she started attending Timothy Christian, a school where she and her siblings attended for many years to come. Which is why I can't remember the name of the teacher, and I couldn't ask any of you. But anyways, she described how she was sitting cross-legged and how she saw all of the shiny kindergarten toys on the shelves. And so she logically blurted out, "When do we get to play with all the toys?" Or something like that. And to picture my mom, to picture their Yaya, do any of you guys remember that story? Okay, well, you're hearing it now for the first time then. You were there. To picture their Yaya, my mom, being a 5-year-old, blurting this out in class, out of turn, was so funny. We laughed, and she laughed. And then her teacher told her to go stand behind the piano as a punishment. This was also funny for us to hear. And don't worry, this isn't a story about sadness or punishment or broken spirits. The story stuck with me for a reason, a different reason. I think it's because of all of the inquiries and investigations my mom took part in during her life. And I'm so glad that she wasn't deterred by that fateful day in kindergarten. She has seen something, like the shiny kindergarten toys, and she's known, this is my work. I need to find out about this. She had a passion for the nursing profession, claiming that it was, quote, 50% psychological work. When she became a mom out in rural Lake Odessa, she knew she needed to connect with La Leche League and other moms in her similar position. Together with my dad, she learned how to live off the land out at their farm. She took part in the civil rights movement. She became a teacher, stepped into spaces she might not have understood well in order to help her students. She transitioned to a new church, one which has held her close ever since. She jumped into technology in the 1990s when it was introduced to her elementary school students. She realized that Black community leaders needed to be connected with her students and her classroom. She learned deeply about native plants and the connection they have with us, our world, and our future. I could go on, but I know she would already see this as boasting. My point is, I'm so proud of my mom. Her ability to see something and to inquire and to find out as much as she could about it was remarkable. This is called The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made this world? Oops, I misspoke. Who made the world? Is there only one? Okay, I'll start over. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who's flung herself out of the grass. The one who's eating sugar out of my hand. Who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
I feel a lot of love in this space, and it's wonderful. I enjoy and sometimes suffered from being the youngest of the family by several years. But you can learn a lot from your sibs from this vantage point. My sister and I were far enough apart that it really took me about 55 years to feel like she and I were in the same space. I mean, she was done with college and getting married, and I was in grade 6. But for the past decade, we actually enjoyed each other in a way that was previously elusive. I do remember telling her, I was 60, that I could only hope to be as amazing as she was. I ran into her in Alger Heights. She was on Eastern Avenue collecting ballot signatures for some ballot initiative. And I just remember it hitting me. It's like, wow, she's 70 and just out here, whatever. And I reminded her of this in a recent conversation. This is what amazing looks like from my perspective. So she was the smarty pants in the family. She got a generous 4-year college scholarship. She was the pretty one. She was on the Queen's Court in high school, Queen's Court in college when they did this beauty and personality thing back then. She was Dean of Women at Calvin College before she was 30. She's a city girl that turned country and for a spell with animals in the garden of crops, and then she returned to the city and became a Grand Rapids public school teacher, a master gardener, a part-time Uber cabin dweller, pretty much a wide gamut of styles and all that. But the essence of Gretchen Hirama Zuiderveen was the conviction she put into what mattered to her. She questioned things with conclusions that didn't always jive with the family narrative. But she did not seek attention, recognition, status, money, notoriety. In fact, she typically shrugged off her accomplishments. Her signature move in the end, she and I had to come to Jesus about a few of these accomplishments in the last months of her life. She was a committed educator who cared about her students even when she had a hard time liking some of them. They all mattered. She never saw herself as anything special, but I'll never forget being at DeVos Hall at an event that she was also at. It's a huge crowd. I happened to be standing near her. On 2 separate occasions, randomly, somebody came up and thanked her for what they did for her kid. Not a current student. And it wasn't like, oh, hey, Mrs. Z, nice to see you. It was like, I just want to thank you for what you did for my kid. And I remember that hit me, and she doesn't think she's all that, and this does not happen. And it happened twice. Kind of funny, though. She could easily resort to classroom teacher mode in the family, and there were times we weren't having it. She took on the healthcare system back in the 70s. Think about that. No large-scale protest or appearance on TV aid or anything, but a conviction to delivering her baby in an environment where she could control just how she was going to deliver. And she did it. No fanfare, but a revolt of the system that told you what to do and how. She found a physician who listened to her. She did it her way. I reminded her that she paved the way for what was to revolutionize the childbirth experience from being a clinical procedure to allowing the mother's body to be governed by the mother herself. We take that for granted. Back in the 70s, it was not a thing. She also championed breastfeeding when society was still rolling their eyes at it. When I reminded her of this, she simply and sincerely, in her strained voice, said, I was just trying to do the best for my baby. No glory sought, no press story, no publication, just commitment to doing it right. That kind of conviction applied to the environment, gardening, teaching, civil rights, just about everything she did. One of the ironies of her death is that she was the one with the favored odds in the family prediction market of replicating our father's 100-year run. But then in 1 year's time, she aged 5. And then the final belly kick that it was ALS at work all that time. She faced it with the same resolve evident in her whole life. She faced her death and figured out how best to do it. There was a sadness, but no bitterness. Her big smile beamed on several occasions. She was grateful for her life. She felt love and gave love right to the end. I can only hope to replicate such dignity when my time comes. She came in this world and left it truly as an image bearer of God.
Let's unite our voices and sing a hymn of praise and thanksgiving. Morning has broken in your bulletins. As we continue this time of remembrance and thanksgiving, I want to enjoin you to open your hearts and hear these words of remembrance from Gretchen's friends, Amy and Lisa.
Gretchen's fan club, we're all here. Okay, I'll do it. Thank you for being here to help Gretchen, to help us celebrate our wonderful Gretchen. My name is Amy Heilman, and I met Gretchen 17 years ago when she joined the Grand Rapids chapter of Wild Ones, which is a national organization of volunteers that promotes the benefits of using native plants in the landscape. This message is spread via our members through education, advocacy, and collaborative action. At that time, 17 years ago, I was the president of our chapter. Upon meeting Gretchen for the first time, I was immediately struck by her open and welcoming smile, that one right there, and her absolute enthusiasm for caring for the planet. She totally embodied the mission of our organization, and I saw over the years how her kindness and positive energy were so instrumental in helping our membership grow. People were drawn to her like bees to nectar, and I was one of them. She truly cared about the people, the land, and the waters of Michigan, and used her relentless energy to make it a better place. She seemed to be everywhere, all the time, volunteering as a MSU Extension Master Naturalist, planting prairies for wild ones and the West Michigan Land Conservancy, collecting seeds to disperse, pulling invasive species along the White Pine Trail, planting trees downtown with Friends of Grand Rapids Parks, staffing educational tables, working with school and scout groups to plant native gardens. And this is just scratching the surface of her efforts, as you've already heard. She created beautiful native gardens at the home she and George shared for many years in Belmont, and was sad to leave them when they were downsized a couple of years ago during a move to independent living at Clark Village at Franklin. However, this life change did not prevent her from bringing along some of her favorite species from their garden to plant at the new location. Looking out from their windows to an area with invasive species and extensive lawn was not sitting well with Gretchen, as you can imagine, because it was not providing habitat for pollinators and birds, or for her and George, for that matter. Despite her failing health, she remained undaunted in her efforts to be an instrument of change. She collaborated with Kent Conservation District staff and Calvin University's Plaster Creek stewards to help transform a portion of Clark Village landscape into healthier habitat by removing the bad plants and adding many perennials, shrubs, and trees. Today, the area is so much more interesting and diverse, and in the years to come, it will continue to grow and thrive, and hopefully become a garden that others will want to help care for in her honor. Gretchen will be remembered for all the wonderful things she did, but also for the amazing woman she was. She made you feel special and that your actions made a difference. I and her many native garden friends hold her in a position of high esteem in our memories. She used her outlook and actions as a springboard for others. And we know her spirit will continue to move and shape all of us who were honored to have known her. Thank you, Gretchen, for being a flower, a beautiful flower, in the garden of our lives.
Hello, my name is Lisa Honeycutt, and I have a moment with Gretchen. Can you believe some little country girl from Mississippi is up on this pulpit looking at what you said, her fan club, Gretchen's fan club? I had the extraordinary privilege of leaving a former school district and a symphony in Memphis, Tennessee, and came to Grand Rapids, where I took a position as a music teacher in Grand Rapids Public Schools. I told this story earlier that when I first got here, they gave me a schedule with 11 schools. And I thought, in a week? And I showed it to a couple of the people that I had met early, and Gretchen was one of them. She was at one of my 11 schools. We got it down to 6, because what can you do? Anyway, she and I, we just kind of hung out together quite a bit. Our personalities were drawn to each other, our spirits. Anyway, we truly got to know each other the day my whatever old Toyota station wagon just wouldn't go anymore outside of Alger School. And the nice secretary said, "Hello, everyone. Is there anyone left in the building with jumper cables?" Well, guess who showed up? 2000, the year 1999-2000. I had the privilege of meeting Gretchen and getting to know her amazing family and extended friends' family. What a gift. There were years of collaboration at school. She helped me understand the northern expectations from being in the South, and to not worry about when people say, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" because of my accent. And we had a good time with that. We fell in love with those kids at that school for years and years. We tried to calculate how many students we would have in our careers. It was impossible. And what a blessing. She talked about them one by one, individually, with a true concern and a deep love and respect for their futures. That helped motivate me to take on that perspective as well. I did, but she had more of a scientific approach and a mother approach, and then she shared her big sister vibes with me. I was the beneficiary of what I might want to do and how I might want to choose and all that, and I loved it because I'm the oldest in my family of my siblings, and I'm like, "Oh, so this is what it's like. Okay, all right." I treated my youngest sister a little differently in a joke, but she was my adventure buddy. I've got stories for you that once you told us the kindergarten story, I'm thinking, oh, I have more, but maybe we'll just, because she and I, we had this thing of, she had introduced the UP to me. I had seen it on a map. Now it's a favorite hideaway. She told me the secrets, showed me the secrets. She and George opened the cabin and said, "Come up and get lost up here. Just go see everything." She was a teacher, but she was also an adventurer. And I got to see, the privilege of this person that was appropriate, highly intelligent, but let's go sit at the Lake Superior Brewery bar. And let me introduce you to some folks. Let's go see so-and-so in town. Let's go see if we can get in trouble. I never thought I'd hear her say that. But it was our fun kind of trouble. It was never trouble, really. It's pretty squeaky clean. I also played quite a bit in the Grand Rapids Symphony in those years. I had started subbing, being an extra musician with them in 1992. And wherever I lived, I would travel up. And at some of the performances because of school, and I saw George and Gretchen at DeVos Hall, that sparked a whole other branch in our relationships as friends. It was beautiful. They wondered, why are you alone on holidays? My family tree is in Memphis and South, and I would travel a lot. But every once in a while, like maybe Thanksgiving, because I play at Civic Theater or there's another show around town, they would say, you have to come join us for Thanksgiving, please, do that. They opened their home so many times. So I said it was the Tour de Grand Rapids for wayward musicians. And I greatly appreciate your love and your kindness and the inclusion of all of it. My yard, too, has many little Gretchen places. Recently had a hailstorm that took out most of the flowers that include hollyhocks from Grand Marais. I never would have known about that. These were there this morning, and I just thought, well, look at you. Okay, thank you for being in our lives. Thank you for loving us. And I will see you later. My friend, my dear friend, big sister-ish. I let her be the big sister. Thank you.
As an act of solidarity and praise and thanksgiving, let's join our voices together to the choir and sing hymn number 159, This Is My Song, a hymn of celebration. Friends, you may be seated. As a reminder, following today's service, you are all invited by the family to join in a reception luncheon in the social hall just out here that is being hosted by the Women's Association of Fountain Street Church. Receive now these words of benediction by Rabbi Roland Gittelson. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember her. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember her. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember her. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, and we remember her. Go in peace. Amen.